Cody, take those.
Yeah.
Shazam!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Tavern Talk. I am Philip, and we are here at the Movie Tavern. Definitely check out the Movie Tavern if you have one in your area. It's a great experience. Dinner, snacks, drinks, desserts, all the good stuff. Shout out to the wait staff who works really hard to make it a fun, fantabulous experience. Joining me this week to talk about Shazam is my friend Danner. Say hey, Danner.
Hey, Danner.
Hey. What'd you think? Shazam.
Wonderful.
Yeah?
Absolutely loved it.
Okay, so let's talk about where you come from on the DC films.
So, typically, I love DC films.
Yeah.
You've known me for a while. You've also known Batman is by far my favorite character.
Oh, yeah.
Both my kids are named Bruce Wayne. It's really weird, but
That's
we
a
named
fact.
them Bruce Wayne 1, Bruce Wayne 2.
Yep.
So, but they've taken, Zack Snyder started it with a dark theme. Superman's killing, Batman's killing. A lot of people have had a problem with that.
Yeah.
I was afraid Shazam was going to be the overcorrection.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We're going to go in the ditch. I thought that they've done a fantastic job with introducing humor. It's easy when I say it's easy. You bring these great kid actors in, and they really deliver their performances, and we'll get into that. But I thought it was a great compliment to the dark side of DC and the serious tone, to then have this fun, very comic book movie.
Yeah, it feels like a comic book movie.
Right.
I'm not a huge comic book reader, but like grew up, with the animated heyday of animated series for comics, and kind of read some out of seeing all those on TV. Talking about X-Men, Batman, Spider-Man, all those great animated series of the '90s, and it was just. This kind of felt like an actual live action version of like one of those cartoons, and I didn't know anything about Shazam coming into this. Like I didn't know. I don't know where you.
No, when they announced Shazam, he was Captain Marvel originally. Went to Shazam. I was a little bit familiar. He's kind of floating on the outskirts of the major characters,
right?
Especially since the '90s, since the animated series for Batman and Superman's taken off. All of that. He's kind of been on the fringe of that.
Okay.
And so I did have to do a little bit of research and see where his powers come from and all those kinds of things. But I think that we've seen with other movies like Guardians is that we can take those B characters or maybe even C characters.
Right, yeah.
And if you do them right, and I think especially if you find the right performers and directors, you can make them household names.
Which is key here. I didn't know anything, but when I first heard the premise of basically it was a big as a superhero movie, I was like, oh, that's great. That's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you have David F. Sandberg is the director. He made a little short called Lights Out, a few years back, was able to make a feature out of it, and then directed Annabelle Creation for Warner Bros. And now he is, directing one of their comic book movies. And so we knew he could, work with, just like Lights Out was like minuscule budget, like micro budget of a movie. And so to see him get to work with something on just a big scale here, it was cool to get to see what he could do. But like you said, casting was key, and Zachary Levi is fantastic. Like it's completely just like natural, like born to play it almost. He's great in the role. And then the kids, Asher Angel and Jack Dylan Grazer. Grazer you probably saw in It from a few years back. He was one of the kids in the Stephen King reboot or reimagining, whatever you want to call it. We're saying that a lot this week,
right?
But no, the casting was great. And he did a wonderful job balancing the tone of the funny, the serious, the scary, and just everything going on story-wise as well.
So when you have a director like this with Conjuring and Lights Out, who is a master of tone, and I think you have to be with a low budget, and especially with horror if you want to be successful. So comic books are all about tone.
Right.
Each comic book has its own tone and is specific to that, and it's unique to those comics. Mm-hmm. And so with Shazam, it's a kid, it's adolescent. Right. He's going through a lot of changes. biologically and now magically.
Yeah.
And so I thought he did a wonderful job with that. And Robert Downey Jr. may be the only other actor that I've thought, I mean, this guy was made for this role. This is exactly.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. Hugh Jackman, Robert Downey Jr., and Zach Levi. I'm going to call it early. I know it may be, a prisoner of the moment, but he just seems. I can't wait to see him again.
Right. No. Yeah. He just owns it. Like he totally gets what he's supposed to be doing. Yes. He's playing this. He is him physically, but he is this 15-year-old kid in every other aspect, and he just plays that up completely, and it's just fun to watch. Like, it's just a fun movie. And as much of a fan as I was, I guess I was one of the odd people out. I loved Man of Steel. I really liked Batman vs Superman. Like, I was in for what Snyder was doing, but I understand, why. They've had to do, I liked Wonder Woman. I understand why Aquaman went the way it did, and how this is just continuing that trend with Shazam. But yeah, it didn't overcorrect it. There's as much as this is lighthearted and fun and kind of wacky in certain aspects. It still has an undercurrent of not necessarily like seriousness, but just like there is a real threat here, I guess you could say.
Well, and the undertone of foster care and dealing with that, not having a family, finding who your family is, and not everything seems has to be. That's a very serious tone, and so
that's true.
And it does get in there and talk about that, and really kind of those notes hit well. Also, I'm going to compare it to Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
I felt like the stakes were high, but they weren't too high.
Right.
It wasn't that the world was about to end, the Darkseid was about to come out of this portal and take everybody out, but it stayed within its barriers.
Yeah.
And did a really good job with it.
Yeah, no, it's all based in Philly, and it stays there, and it's just this conflict about the powers, really, about the different types of people wanting to use those powers for, having different agendas with those powers, and I again, not being familiar with the mythology of Shazam, it was cool to see that, see what the story was like. I had no idea it was a wizard, or that he had this, there were 7 other wizards, and they had I don't know. I won't go into it too much because I don't know how much of that is spoilers, because it's all new information to me. But it was cool. It was cool to learn about. I enjoyed it, and it did. Like you're saying, it was contained, but it did a good job of building this world that we became invested in.
Yeah, and it's only April, but this was your popcorn summer movie.
Oh yeah,
I feel like we've got a lot of big movies this summer, but this one kicked it off really well.
Yeah,
and I anticipated this will get me hungry for the rest of the summer. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, this movie could have carried in May or June.
Oh yeah,
and it really. I think this will be a movie that we'll see week 2 and 3. This one will build as people talk, and people will love this. I think this will be a good one going down the road.
Oh yeah, the sequel will definitely open in June, middle of June or something like that for sure. It was interesting that you brought up the foster care element. I was talking a little bit with my wife about Dumbo, and how some people had discussed how he was separated from his mother, and people were taking care of him, and he found this family that wasn't biological, but that people were, there was still people who loved him, and that did play a larger role in this movie. That set those same kind of ideas about, family isn't necessarily just the people who share your DNA, but it's people who you find that care about you and love you. And that was a surprisingly emotional element of this movie that I didn't necessarily expect from a DC movie.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into too much about how almost every superhero is an orphan or has mommy or daddy.
That's true, yeah.
But this did it in a way that incorporated, I don't want to say too much, but a team of other kids. His foster parents were great. Their dynamic was great.
They were good. I wish I knew the actors' names right off the top of my head, because they were great.
So I thought they played it well enough and pulled in some bully ties that gave you that adolescent feel that unless you were the captain of the football team who was dating the cheerleader, you're going to connect to this movie. and then connect with that aspect of it.
Yeah, no, it was. I really enjoyed it. I was gonna say, it didn't play the foster element or the bullying element to a degree where it was just like beating you over the head with it.
Nope.
But like, did you see Instant Family?
I did not see Instant Family.
So that did really well at balancing like the seriousness of the of the scenario that these kids are in and the comedy. So it wasn't just like downer all the time. And you throw in some superpowers, and that's kind of what you have here as far as tone is concerned. And I don't know. Yeah, it's just a really enjoyable big screen popcorn movie that. A little darker than we might expect, a little more gruesome in certain sequences with certain bad guys, but overall, really fun. I don't know.
And I told you I thought I'll watch this, probably bring my 5-year-old, will not bring my 5-year-old.
Yeah.
So you said you really enjoyed it. I'm going to ask you, out of 5 stars, what are you going with?
I'm gonna go. It's a solid 4 for me. It's a solid 4. Like I enjoyed it. I want to see it again. I want to see it on the big screen again before it's done with its theatrical run. And yeah, it's definitely a step in the the right direction, but definitely a bigger crowd-pleasing direction for DC. Yeah. So what about you though?
Well, I'm going to be a little more generous. I've already got my tax refund back, so I'm going to go 4.5 stars out of 5. And I thought it was great.
Throw some more money out.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you for checking out our review of Shazam. If you're interested at all, definitely go to a movie tavern and see Shazam on the big screen. We both recommend it. And also, if you liked our review, don't forget to subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Hit the little bell, get notifications when we post a new review, because we drop a new review at least once a week for the biggest release of that week. But thanks again. This was Tavern Talk. We'll see you next week.
Konnichiwa!